Further adventures in self-isolation. When I boarded the flight, I was a free man, but by the time it landed, the rules had changed. I'd been in Sydney for my sister's wedding, and since that happy event coincided with the equally happy event of my separation from Charlotte, I thought I'd celebrate with a 3-week holiday on the other side of the world, during which time the pandemic had got much worse here. The country's gone into lockdown. Now, I can't sleep on aeroplanes, so having just flown back from Australia, becoming more exhausted with every passing time zone, I can barely understand what the masked official at the airport is telling me. 2 weeks of self-isolation. This bus will take you home, and don't leave it for 14 days. I give the official my address, take a seat on the bus, and promptly fall asleep. 2 hours later, I'm woken by the driver yelling my name. I'm the last passenger on the bus. Except this is the wrong house. In my jet-lagged state, I'd given the address that ceased to be my family home 3 weeks ago. I sheepishly give the driver directions to the flat that I now live in near the centre of town, a further 20 minutes drive. He's not impressed. With Charlotte kicking me out just before I left for Australia, I was forced to find a new place in a hurry, and this flat was the first I looked at. That'll do. Thank you. See you next month. Then I booked the removal firm Carrington's to pack and deliver my stuff while I was away. Wearily lugging my suitcase up to the third-floor landing, I find a box of basic food and cleaning products outside the door, together with the keys and a note from my new landlord. He'd been advised that I was self-isolating here for 2 weeks, so he would leave a box of supplies outside the door every other day and add the cost to my rent. Suits me fine. Saves me thinking about it. I let myself in, head straight to the unmade bed, and sleep till the next morning. Eating a bowl of Weetabix, I think how I should maybe have spent more than 5 minutes looking for a new home. This flat is shabby and cold, drearily decorated, and I don't think any appliance is less than 20 years old. The one new feature is the mountain of cardboard boxes stacked in the living room. But there's no rush to unpack. I've got a few days of clean clothes in my luggage, and I can live on sandwiches and cereal till I get the kitchen sorted. But can I live with no TV and no Wi-Fi? Because right now, I don't have either. Okay, here's the challenge. If this is going to be isolation, why not go the whole hog? Come on, I can go 2 weeks without the internet. This could be a diet for the mind. I should embrace this opportunity. Between the collapse of my marriage and a global pandemic, I could do with a fresh start. 2 weeks of peace and quiet to think about my future. No wasted time online or watching junk TV. I hide my mobile phone on top of a high cupboard. It's there for emergencies, otherwise I'm determined to live without it. Time to unpack. I start by ripping the parcel tape from a large box labelled kitchen and fish out a heavy cast iron skillet. Next, some old and well-used copper-bottomed pans and a bubble-wrapped set of wooden-handled knives. I don't recognise any of this. Has Charlotte fobbed me off with some old rubbish she was desperate to get rid of? In another box, plates and cups with faded flowery designs, many chipped, and all with fine webs of cracks in the glaze. I sit on the floor, heavy with realisation. This isn't my stuff. I open another box to find it full of clothes, tatty shirts, scuffed shoes, threadbare jumpers, the clothes of an old man. Furious, I grab my mobile and call Carrington's. You've delivered the wrong boxes, you idiots. Where's my delivery? Where should these boxes have gone? Wait, has some old guy had my stuff for the past 3 weeks? Yes, I need it urgently. Yes, I would like to discuss compensation. No, I'm in self-isolation, so you have to fix this. Now. Except the call goes to voicemail. We're very sorry, but in the current situation, Carrington's is unable to provide our services. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you when blah blah blah. I don't leave a message. What would be the point? So here I am, in a strange flat with a stranger's possessions, and nothing I can do about it for 2 weeks. I should open another box, try to find out who owns all of this. I'm hesitant. If this was my stuff, I couldn't bear the thought of someone else rifling through it, wherever it is. But my experiment of 2 weeks total isolation is already going off the rails on day 2. Without my property, I will literally have nothing to do. I need something to keep me occupied. I opt for a box labelled Books. Using a carving knife, I carefully slit through the packing tape, and sure enough, it's a collection of hardback classics, the sort that look good on a bookshelf, but ordered from a book club rather than collected over the years. Most look untouched. But I guess this is a chance to fill in some gaps in my reading. We've got Austen, Dickens, the Brontes, Hardy, and so on. Easily enough to keep me occupied for 2 weeks. There's no harm done in reading a few books, right? But you can only read so much before the mind wanders. And my mind wanders repeatedly to the life boxed up in my lounge. Who is this guy? Where is he? Since I've already opened a box of clothes, I explore that further. All men's clothes, so I guess he lived here alone. I lift up a jumper. I've just come back from an Australian summer to a variable British spring. No warm clothes in my luggage. This could be useful if the nights turn cold. This is ridiculous. What am I doing? I fold the jumper back into place. This isn't helping. I boil up some pasta for dinner. But while I'm waiting, curiosity gets the better of me. There are a few unlabelled boxes, and I pick one that feels solid and weighty. I'm looking for paperwork. I slide the knife under the edge and cut the tape. Yeah, this seems to be what I'm looking for. Envelopes stuffed with bills, bank statements, and letters. I take some to the kitchen table while I'm eating my pasta. First things first, this appears to have been the flat of Mr. Harold Baxter. So now I have a name to go on. The thought of prying into Mr. Baxter's personal affairs makes my skin crawl, as if somehow he can sense that I'm looking at his stuff. But I need to do something to find out where he is, and whether Carrington's are simply mixed up our deliveries. But then I see something that makes me freeze. My stomach turns over. A water bill with Mr. Baxter's previous address. This address. These boxes weren't delivered here by mistake. They're waiting to be collected from here. A chill runs through me. I feel like an intruder. I have the sensation that if I turn around now, Mr. Baxter is going to be stood behind me. Snap out of it, you idiot. Look around. Of course there's no one there. This isn't a horror movie. I retrieve my mobile from its hiding place and call Charlotte. She has no interest in small talk, so I cut to the chase. Has the removal company collected my stuff from the house? No, she says. It's piled up in the garage, so come and get it. I start explaining why that's a bit tricky right now, but she's not interested in that either. It's not her problem. She doesn't care. She hangs up. Great. Maybe it's still the jet lag, but I can't sleep. Too many questions. Where did Mr. Baxter move to? Maybe he was moved into a care home. That's why he hasn't collected these boxes. Or maybe no one can collect them during the lockdown, so he's in the same boat as me. I should leave things be and get on with some reading. But over the next few days, I find myself unable to concentrate on any of the books. The pages may as well be blank. I don't take in a word. What if there is something in these boxes that can lead to Mr. Baxter? It seems unlikely, and I know perfectly well that's just a pretext to snoop. But I can't think about anything else. Photos. I need photos. It's impossible to open any box even a little, so I take the plunge and cut open a few boxes of uninteresting ornaments before I find some bubble-wrapped framed photographs. And here is Harold, on his wedding day, on holiday with his wife, with their child. All the regular trappings of a regular life. I don't know how I expected him to look, but he seems utterly undistinguished. I'm strangely disappointed. I wanted something a bit more exciting. Here's a picture of their child, a daughter, in a police uniform. Okay, I guess that's kind of interesting. The only photos that look more recent are baby photos, presumably grandchildren. I eat dinner in a bad mood. If I'm going to make Harold Baxter my project for the next week, then he should be remarkable in some way, not this bland nonentity. By lunchtime the next day, I've opened every box. I stand all the framed photos up on the shelves and try to place them in order. And I notice there are no photos of Harold and his wife past middle age. After a week in isolation, all qualms about looking through someone else's belongings have vanished. I found some large envelopes full of documents and correspondence, letters both official and personal. I'm delighted that they've been stored with little regard for order. It gives me more chance to play detective. I quickly ascertain that Harold's wife was called Veronica, and their daughter Maeve is indeed a policewoman. When Maeve married, her name changed from Baxter to Greer. However, it seems that Veronica died about 30 years ago. That's why there are no recent family photos, at least none framed. There are shoeboxes full of loose photos, including recent ones of a white-haired, stooped Harold with 2 grandchildren. A happy photo, but not happy enough to find itself on display. Within another day, I've pieced together pretty much all there is to know, and I feel thoroughly dissatisfied. I realise that I'd have glimpsed all of these photos, books, and ornaments when I first briefly visited the flat, and I've learned barely anything more since then. What else is there to discover? Going through his clothes feels like a step too far, but I take out the jumper again, and before I can stop myself, I've put it on. It's warm, comfortable. He has a few suits. Well, they shouldn't be packed away for this long, they'll crease. I'll hang them up at least. And I find, in a jacket pocket, another envelope, filled with letters. I hurry to the table and spread them out, eager to read. They're all addressed to Harold, all in the same handwriting. With a rush of excitement, I feel certain that now, on day 10 of my isolation, my project, I found the key. There's a knock on the door. It's probably the landlord to see how I am. I could ignore it. But peering through the peephole in the door, I see it's a policeman. Or possibly a woman. They're wearing a medical mask, so I can barely see their face. What if it's her? The daughter? I'd better answer. I'm about to open the door when I realise I'm still wearing Harold's jumper. I yank it off and throw it out of sight. I open the door a crack and offer a polite hello. "Good afternoon, sir," says a woman's voice. I glance at her name badge. Greer. It's her, it must be, Maeve Greer, Harold's daughter. I feel sick with fear. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," she says, lowering her face mask. "I didn't know that this flat had been let. My father, Harold Baxter, lived here until recently, and I wondered if any of his belongings have been left here." I'm thinking fast. I can't lie about Harold's stuff. She'll find out that it's not being collected, but hopefully not that it's currently scattered all over the flat. "Yes, they are," I say. "I just got back from holiday last week and found his things still here. I tried to call the removals company but can't get hold of them. The problem is, since I've been away, I'm now in self-isolation for 2 weeks, so I'm sorry, but I can't let anyone in." She sighs, nods, frustrated. Half an hour ago, I would have seized this chance to ask her where her father is. But now, I don't want to. I want to see what information those letters can give me, what I can work out for myself. "Give me your number," I offer. "I have some boxes of your father's here, safe and sound, and I promise that I'll call you as soon as these 2 weeks are up." "All right," Maeve says, passing her card through the door. "Can I take your name, please, sir?" I tell her my details and promise to call her as soon as I can. I watch her descend the stairs before clicking the door shut. Okay, so I have 4 days to sort out this mess. If I can get the landlord to buy me some parcel tape, I should be able to pack everything up as close as possible to how it was. And if I confess that, yes, I had to open 1 or 2 boxes to try to find out whose they were, and maybe a book to read, that's not so bad, is it? But first, that stash of mystery letters. A series of increasingly frantic letters written over the space of about 2 years that refer to "your son" and make increasingly outlandish accusations and demands that Harold do the right thing by the writer and his child. So he must have had another child with another woman, although she never names the child and signs herself only with the letter D. Despite the chill in the flat, I'm sweating. My mind is racing. These letters are dated around the same time as my birth, and my mother's name began with a D. I grew up treating my mother's second husband as a father. She told me that my real father left when I was very young. But what if... No, that would be too far-fetched, too absurd a coincidence. But why did these letters suddenly stop after 2 years? Well, that must be about the time that Veronica died. But wait, did I see evidence that she definitely died? Or did she find out about this other child and leave Harold? These can't be all of the letters. There must be more than this. I search all of Harold's clothes, going through every pocket, until the sun's dawn rays make me realise I've been up all night. I collapse into bed for a few hours' fitful sleep, but then I'm back amongst the stack of boxes, examining every single letter, bill, photograph, document, looking for something to fill in the gaps of this story, something that tells me what I need to know. I haven't eaten for a day. I'm pouring with sweat, but I can't stop until night and exhaustion once again send me back to bed, my head swimming. I wake up in the dark. I have no idea what time it is. I feel like an elephant is sitting on my chest, and my body is taut with pain. I stumble into the kitchen and down several pints of water, then pass out before I can get back to bed. I come round lying amongst piles of Harold's things. What time is it now? What day is it? I have to pack all this away before Maeve comes back, but I barely have the energy to sit up. And there is Harold, sitting in his armchair, in his flat, surrounded by his things. I am a trespasser here, an invader in his territory. If I can just pack everything before he notices me, I might get away with this. I'm dimly aware that I've broken a picture frame trying to force it into a box, and the glass has cut my hand. I seem to be smearing Harold's things with my blood. Well, this isn't working at all. I look up from my bloodied hand to see Harold looking right at me. Oh God, I've blown it. I'm sorry, I croak. I'll clear this up. But Harold just smiles. I want to ask him. I want to ask who he is. But I feel like my mouth is on fire and I can't get the words out. All I can whisper is, "Help me." Harold keeps his gaze fixed on me. "Don't worry about it," he says. "Everything is going to be all right." And at that moment, I feel hands on me. Real hands, lifting me, and above me the concerned face of Maeve Greer, saying words I can't hear, making a phone call. Then others are there in masks and medical gowns, lifting me away and up and into the unknown world outside of Harold's domain. 9 days later, 2 of which were spent in intensive care, the virus has run its course. I'm discharged from hospital. I'm both surprised and embarrassed when Maeve Greer meets me at the reception and offers me a lift back to the flat. It feels like the last place I want to be, but I've got nowhere else to go. In the car, Maeve cuts across my awkward attempt at an apology for the state of the flat. She says I was feverish when she found me. I didn't know what I was doing when I opened all of Harold's things. I don't dare contradict her. I ask how she knew to come to the flat that night. And before I can stop myself, I hear myself saying, "Did Harold tell you to come?" She looks at me, startled. "Did Dad tell me? What do you mean?" How to explain? I felt like I saw him in the flat that night, so I wondered if he, I don't know, got my message. I don't think that I've ever seen someone look quite so astonished. Then Maeve says quietly, "Dad passed away 6 weeks ago, so no." Then how? I made some inquiries, and it turned out that at least 40 people that you travelled with have since fallen ill, so you almost certainly caught the virus on your flight here. Now it was my turn to be astonished. "I think you saved my life. What made you check?" "You were in isolation, in my dad's flat. This is a strange time. People need to look out for each other." She pulled up outside the flat, then looked firmly at me. "Did you really see Dad that night?" "I thought I did, but you're right. It must have been the fever." Maeve laughed. "Listen, next time you need help, I suggest you phone someone rather than trying to send psychic messages via the dead." As I unpack my stuff, I wonder what happened to the letters that I left on the kitchen table. Maeve must know that I did more than just open some boxes while I was delirious. The least I can do for her is to leave her family's secrets alone, buried with her father. This is my home now. Time for a new start.